Hello, hello, hello. This is Phil and Oscar coming at you with Focus on You. Booyah.
Yeah, today actually is called Focus on Drew because we're going to have Drew Deraney on.
Well, he's the man, myth, and the legend.
And
Uh,
wanted in four
with
states.
the man mindset movement. I mean, how could one guy start a full movement like that? Well, we're going to find out. We're going to
Yes, we
find
will.
out. We're going to major on a big, huge event, amazingly crazy event is going to be happening on March 27th. So he's going to tell us a little bit about that. He's going to tell us a little bit about himself too. And you get to find out how this man, Mr. Deraney, is such an amazing person to know. All right, just like we do. But let's go over a couple small details first. Oscar Capel,
Makes checks
Mr.
payable to Oscar Capel and send them to.
No, wait. Well, I wanted to. I was thinking about what we could do today, as far as your the Underground Railroad,
Oh, yeah.
right? I know you mentioned something in the meeting about what they're doing, and I think it's amazing because they have a long road to travel
Yeah. Well,
when
especially
it
now.
comes to, yeah, especially now. So I mean, just talk about that a little bit
Sure. But,
to give
well,
us a little
if,
insight on that.
if everyone's seen the movie Sound of Freedom was based on just one raid that was done from a movie called Triple Take, where three simultaneous raids were done on child sex trafficking rings in Colombia. So that is one organization, Operation Underground Railroad, that tackles the problem that we're having with child sex trafficking here in the U.S. and around the world. It's not the only one, but it's the one that we are backing because they have so many resources. They now have dogs that can smell out electrical equipment like hard drives and thumb drives that has material on it that has been hidden in people's houses. So they also lend dogs out to communities. They work with all the local police departments to really try to put a dent in what's going on. There is a movie called "It's Happening Right Here," which documents how sex trafficking starts here in the U.S., which people think it's a third world country problem, but it starts here. It starts when your kids are online. They're playing Fortnite or something, and they're in the chat with someone that's also 15 years old, according to what it looks like in the chat. But it's actually a predator that's grooming kids for sexual exploitation. So it is huge. The problem is it's getting bigger daily. Borders are open. The traffickers are sending kids in like crazy. Wars in different countries like Ukraine and everywhere else has exploiting children doing that. So wherever there's a problem, these guys go in there and start exploiting children like crazy. So what we have to do is we have to become aware, and we need to know the what to look for. All of that can be also found on their website ourrescue.org, and there's a lot of information on there. They also now have school programs where kids can form groups and teach each other about what to look for and how to and what to watch out for. So it's the movement is happening. I am one of the two ambassadors from New York, so we have our work cut out for us here in New York. But it's all around the country, and whatever people can do to really protect their families, their kids, their grandkids, and really get the information out to everybody so they know what to look for and what people can do.
I mean, I think that's amazing, um, that you're keeping track and keeping tabs on that. I'm thinking we should do an update on that every now and then because people need to be aware of what's going on. I mean, it's not just it's a $1 billion industry.
It's
You
it's
know,
it's one of the biggest money resources for these traffickers. And again, there are people that sell, there are organizations that sell drugs, but a drug you can sell once and it's done. These kids get resold time after time, day after day, several times a day. So it is an incredible time.
Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly. So, yeah, so reach out to Oscar if you would like to know more about the Underground Railroad and what they're doing as far as trafficking and the world. I mean, they are tackling the world on this because it's an international incident. It's an international, issue. So, we really want to put our hands on that. All right, next, let's talk about what's going on the Phoenix National Network. Okay, for those of you who have been like wondering what's going on with the Bishop's Corner, why haven't we been seeing you? Well, guess what? We are rebranding the Bishop's Corner as well as changing the format. We're developing an app for the Bishop's Corner. So you'll be able to watch it through the app. You'll be able to watch it on its independent platform. And we will give you more details on that later. So pay close attention in March, March 14th. That's when we're looking to launch the program back. We're partnering with different churches and organizations. So if you go to the website, thebishopscornerinternational.com, you'll get some more information there. Yeah, but we got our own website now, so that's a wonderful thing, right, Oscar?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's going to be great. Let's not waste any more time. We got Mr. Deraney waiting in the sidelines. He looks like he's ready to give us something to talk about. You hear that song? You ever heard that song? Let's give him something to talk about.
No,
Oh,
I never
anyway,
heard never heard that version of it. Thank you.
well, yeah, don't worry about it, dude. That's the Phil version. All right, let's welcome now Mr. Drew Deraney.
There he is.
Hey, brothers. What's going
Mr.
on?
Deraney, good to have you, my brother.
Good to have you too.
All right. So, Mr. Deraney, you have an exciting event coming up on the 27th. But before we get to that, let's do a little short introduction here. Tell the folks again who you are, what you do, and a little bit more about the Mindful Man movement.
Absolutely. Well, I'd have to say I'm doing what I'm doing because of things that happened to me in my life probably about 5 years ago. I call them four two by fours that hit me upside the head to wake me up to say, Drew, there's a better way to live. And that was a divorce, fired from my job, son had suicidal ideations, and my dad unexpectedly got sick and passed away. 9 month period, 2018, 2019, shook my world. Um, not thrilled that all that happened. It did happen for a reason, and it has made me a stronger person to this day. What it made me realize is for my entire life, I've been a people pleaser, and also going through life really on autopilot with no direct purpose and kind of forgot who I was. So now I know who I am, guys, and I realize that men are taught to suppress their emotions and wear a mask most of their lives and not be their authentic self, and that needs to change. So the mindful man movement is really about helping men really acknowledge their thoughts, harness their emotions, remove self-limiting beliefs, and write their own story.
So, the Mindful Man movement is what aspect of being mindful are we targeting here?
Well, first and foremost, start being self-aware. Most men aren't aware of why and what they think, why and what they say, and why and what they do. And when we live 95% of our life in our subconscious brain activity, we tend to just sleepwalk through life and conform and comply and kind of live other people's belief system. 5% of our brain activity is conscious. And that's what I'm trying to wake up for the men that really get a grasp on who you are as a human being, where you're going in life, and how to really apply healthy behaviors to get you to reach your goals and building a stronger men, which is really redefining what it means to man up.
That's a that is a it, I think that's a tough wall to crack because we, like you said, we've been brought up like, suck it up, be a man. I thought, well, let's
Mhm.
redefine that. What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, we've been told, and I did it when all those four things happened to me. I adhered to what I was, learned from mainstream media and social media, and I just sucked it up, man up. I shunned my support systems. I didn't show emotions. I just went straight through and I fixed it, you know. And what I mean by that is I knew I couldn't look inward to decide if it was worth living,
Mhm.
because my heart, my gut, and my head would have said no, it's not. So if you keep in your own head with those negative thoughts too long, they're going to overpower you.
Mhm.
So I had to look outside. I looked at the eyes of my three kids and my mother, and that's when I just plowed through to make sure they were okay. And I was completely empty when it was all said and
Mhm.
done. Hadn't grieved, hadn't really looked inward to see what does this mean and whatever. And there was just one time when I was really kind of overwhelmed with what had happened, because I've been telling my story, and I started to tell my story out loud to anybody who listened, and I started to heal myself from within. And I started researching, like, how come I'm starting to feel good, and I realized that by letting it out, by releasing toxins, like if I cried, toxins come out of my tears.
Mhm.
If I shared my story and asked for help, emotional toxins would come out of my body. And I'm realizing that, hey, there's the reason why men are dying so young, or they're getting physical ailments because they're ignoring internal unaddressed stress inside. We got to start doing the opposite of the way people are telling us to live, and we got to start embracing vulnerability as a strength, not a weakness. And you can still be strong and be empathic, and you can be a strong man and still show a compassionate side. So that's what I mean by redefine it. And if those masculine men don't believe in that stuff because they think it's foo-foo, you look at the data,
Mhm.
man. Men are 49 to 50% of the population. We're 80% of the suicides. So you ask yourself why? Well, isolation, meaning keeping everything to yourself, kills desire and faith. When you don't have the desire to live or the faith to live, and you don't feel like you're part of a community and that people value you, and you're shamed if you're honest and authentic, of course you're not going to want to live. So yes, tough nut to crack, but those are the best nuts to go after, because it's the road less traveled, and that's what makes us stronger.
That's really funny. You should even mention that because I was having that same conversation with my son this morning. He was visiting with us, and it is essential that sometimes we can make up our own scenario.
Mhm.
Like we think we cope with something, we think we've dealt with something, and I mean, I'm sure you can relate to this too. Like, especially if it's something emotional and you're a man and it's emotional, it's more of, okay, you know what, I need to get beyond this, I need to get stuff done, so here's a shovel and here's a hole. I'm, I'm just gonna bury this thing, and then a few years later, here comes the zombie Phil.
Mm, that's a good analogy. I love that.
Yeah,
Zombie
zombie Phil
film.
starts coming after you, and you're like, oh my
Mhm.
god, but
I thought I
you
buried
know,
this.
I thought I buried this guy.
Mhm.
And that's
Yep,
the other
yep,
thing,
absolutely.
when you're in a hole, stop digging. So,
Mm, yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
and how did, and that's what the men movement that you're doing now is helping.
Mhm.
But how to get the bigger picture to guys is like, it's okay that we share. I think the only time we share anything is like when you go to a bar and you're like, all of a sudden after the third beer, things start coming out. And maybe we need to
Yep.
follow the women's example, go to the bathroom together and talk on the way there and back. I guess that's
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
what we don't do.
You know
See,
what?
they go
You
to the
know what?
bathroom alone, and
Yeah. Well, the other
I,
place we
I
share,
think we're getting
if
carried
you've if
away
you've
here.
noticed, the other place you share, aside from you're talking the bar or the bathroom, is the a wake. Friend of yours passes, right? And then you start reminiscing, and get kind of deep in this funeral home with the casket. And I now ask my friends, I'm like, did you tell him all this stuff while he was alive? and maybe we start changing and start telling people what we feel about them while they're alive rather than have to wait until they're in a casket
Hmm.
and we're talking amongst
Hmm.
ourselves. And I think, I was just talking to a couple people in our men's group, and they said talked about writing your own obituary,
Wow.
because your obituary is your legacy.
Hmm.
And so if you write your obituary while you're alive, you're writing what how you want people to remember you. And it usually gets you to be self-reflective and insightful about yourself as a human being. And I believe that's
Hmm.
cathartic, because that helps you define your identity. And if you realize that that definition is different from the way you've been living your life, there's your defining moment to start changing something.
There's a great book called Seven Levels of Communication, and in
Hmm.
there is that idea of write your obituary. Start with the end in sight and work your way backwards. So
Hmm.
now,
Hmm.
using that idea, you write your obituary. This is the way people see me. This is what I have accomplished. Now you have
Hmm.
a template to work back to
Yep.
to get to that point.
Hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. So that's like one example. Perfect. That's really true, Oscar. There's another book called The Five Regrets of the Dying, and the number one regret of the dying is not spending enough time with family.
Really?
So you could also, your imagination is so powerful. So use your imagination and visualize yourself on your deathbed. What are the top five regrets you'd be telling somebody if they were writing a book? And when you put pen to paper the five regrets you'd have when you're dying, that means they're the five regrets you have now. Then look at those regrets and say, okay, do I have control over eliminating those regrets? Do it. And then that becomes part of your to-do list. And hopefully you'll have no regrets when you're on your deathbed. So kind of grim way of thinking about it, but it does help you put yourself in the present moment and act on things now that you can act on, so you're not regretting it later,
But you
you
know
know?
what? Here's I think uh, our how we perceive our issues or our problems is really the gigantic obstacle is perception, right? If you see it as a period in your life, then that's where you're going to stop and that's it, right? But if
Mhm,
you see it as
mhm,
a comma or
mhm,
exclamation
mhm,
mark, or
yeah,
you're it's a point, it's not saying that's the end of your sentence. It's just
mhm,
saying I'm pausing for a minute.
mhm, yep,
I'm going to recover and then I'm going to move on, right? And
absolutely.
that's how
Mhm,
we should see our story being told is like, yeah,
mhm,
because you hit a comma doesn't mean it's a period.
mhm, mhm, absolutely. I say that, like, our past does not define us. So there's not really a period after our past. It is a comma.
Hmm.
But our past kinda helps guide us to where we are now, but we don't wanna stay in it.
Hmm.
So there's and yeah, somebody had also mentioned to me that, the only 2 definite things we know is that we were born and we're gonna die. So you have, like, your birth year and your death year, and then you got the 3 dots in the middle, the dash in
Hmm.
the middle, the dash in
Yeah,
the middle.
the dash
And we have control over what happens
between.
within that
I like that.
dash. We don't know how long the dash we know how long the dash we don't know how long the dash is gonna
Hmm.
be. So and we don't know, and we can control what happens in that dash. So, it's kind of another way to think about it. There's so many ways to think about it, but if you remain optimistic, you've got a
Hmm.
chance. You're pessimistic, you don't
Well,
have a
yeah,
chance.
because either one is a vision of yourself
Yeah.
in the
Yep.
future,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Because the future doesn't exist yet
No.
because it's not here yet. It's not in time or in the present. But
Right.
what you vision of your future can be self-fulfilling prophecy. It can be where
Mhm.
you're just projecting exactly where you're going to be in 5 years, exactly where you're going to be in
Mhm.
10, and exactly where you're going to be in 2 weeks, exactly where you're going to be in 3 weeks,
Mhm.
because of where
Mhm.
your mindset is. It's like
Mhm.
planning a trip and you bought a ticket, but you don't take the ticket. You know,
Mhm.
you
Yep.
don't get on the plane. You don't you don't find your
Right.
seat. You're not going anywhere.
Absolutely.
You
Right.
could buy the ticket, 3, 4 times in a row. until you get
Yeah.
on that plane,
I,
you
I
you're
use
really
that
not
line.
going anywhere.
I use that line
Yep.
often. Yeah, you bought the ticket, you didn't see the show. Like,
What's the point?
what's the point?
What's the
Yeah,
point?
that's the
That's right.
point.
Yeah, because I talk about in my coaching about mindset, but mindset is nothing until you embody what you change, you shift your mindset to. So you have to live what you're envisioning,
Hmm.
and that's part of the whole manifestation. The order of manifestation is be, do, and
Hmm.
have, right? And the do piece, instead of putting pressure on yourself, put pressure on the
Right.
process, and that leads you to your
I love that.
goal. And yeah, and too many of us live in the
Hmm.
past based on our experiences, and usually our brain leads to the negative stuff, so we remember like when we failed. And I see failure as success, because if you don't win and lose, you win and learn. So if you fail, it's a lesson to do it differently. And too many of us are stuck in the past when we failed, and see failure as a negative, so we don't take risks in the present moment. So then we end up repeating stuff, and the future ends up the same as the past. So why do you want the same? So do something different, And I don't know. I could go all day with
You
this
know,
stuff.
I just want to put a shout out there to our audience, whoever is listening. Please make sure you put your questions or comments in the chat so that we know what you're thinking about this conversation. I think it's amazing. It's an amazing conversation that we're having just about, getting beyond ourselves. That's a first step to success is overcoming yourself,
All right, so
right?
I'm doing some math here as you guys are talking. If you're born today and you're going to live to age 82, how many days
Mhm.
is that?
It's 30,000.
Right. That's not a lot of days. That's 30,000 days. Now,
Hmm.
you're 40 years old, you're down to 15,000.
Hmm.
Keep knocking
Yep.
that number down.
Yeah. I just had a call with a gentleman who he specializes in Japanese psychology. That's his, and his organization, his website is 30,000days.org. And that was just a couple of days ago. I wouldn't have had the answer to that question, Oscar, unless I just talked to him a couple of days ago. And I asked him, what do you, he did the same thing. Is if you're going to live to 82. So basically, I think he was celebrating his 65th birthday. So he told me, and I don't know if I have the math right, but he says he has 5,000 days left if he's going to live to 82, something like that. So he's like, what am I going to do with my 5,000 days? I'm like, geez.
Thank you for just kind of like having a countdown for me.
Yeah.
You know,
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
but do you know, Drew? Listen, let's get to the meat of this conversation because
Yeah.
we know that you're having an extraordinary, extravagant event
Mm.
at the Mamaroneck Library. Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit more about that.
Absolutely. Well, it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for that altruistic young man you partner with, Phil, because Oscar Capel was kind enough to mention me and my book to the person who leads the Mamaroneck Public Library, and talked about my book. And I'm honored. I had a nice talk with them, and I'm going to be doing, as Oscar called it, a book workshop. I'm like, what's that, Oscar? He says, you read parts of your book and you have a discussion. I'm like, I can do that. So yeah, they set something up for Wednesday, March 27th, 6 p.m. Eastern, in the community room at the Mamaroneck Public Library. And as the flyer says, I believe it's time to redefine the traditional notions of masculinity and embrace a more holistic understanding of what it means to be a man. To recognize that expressing vulnerability is a strength and it's not a weakness; it's a sign of strength. And I'm going to take excerpts of my book, read them, and we'll discuss how what it means to the people in the audience, or what they're thinking about it. And if they want to pick my brain as to why I wrote that, I'd be more than happy. Everything I wrote is based on my experience, overlaid with you know instead of teaching moments, I had different term for that. But I'll get into that at a different time. But yeah, it's when you can. I wrote the book as Drew of now, educating the Drew of years past. It's kind of like giving myself the imagination of speaking to my younger self.
And how did you come up
And
with the title "I'll Have What She's Having"?
well, it's interesting. I did that because I've since I'm a reformed people pleaser, and that's the second part. It's called Memoir of a Reformed People Pleaser. I tell people the story that anytime I was in a restaurant, either with my wife or female friends, or even if I was on dates after my divorce, I'd know looking at the menu that I'd want to get the steak, and the waitress would come over and go to the woman and say, "What would you like, ma'am?" And she may say, "Oh, I have the salmon." And then they'll go to me and say, "Sir, what would you like?" And I'm about to say steak, and I bite my tongue. I'm like, "Oh, salmon. That sounds good. I'll have what she's having." And I did that not only in restaurants, it's like everything. It was just like, "Oh, let me have them know that we have something in common," or what. I don't know. So I don't know why I did that, but it's the whole people pleasing and not being, I guess, comfortable in my own skin and wearing that mask. And that's what I did. And that's where the first part came from. And then the second part is after looking at all my behaviors, and that I would really did exhibit all people pleasing behaviors. I feel I'm reformed. I mean, I'm a work in progress because it always comes at you. But that's how I got the name of it, of the book.
That's cool. So the Mamaroneck Public Library, if you're listening to it and you don't see the flyer that is up, you can register at mamaronecklibrary.org/events. That's MAMARONECK library, LIBRARY.org/events. And we will be there. And then we're going to go out for a couple of drinks afterwards.
Absolutely. Looking forward
I'll
to
be
it.
drinking coffee.
Coffee's good. That's a drink.
Right.
Coffee's my favorite
That
drink.
is a drink. That's a good drink.
It is a drink of champions.
What
Yes.
in everything you're learning and you've learned, what is right now, like, what is the number one thing a guy should stop and think about and say, I got to change this
Well,
before?
I mean, I'll just read the back of the book, just a little part. I challenge you to reach deep inside and ask yourself, are you living your life as the person you really are, or are you living the life as others want you to be? And that's what I really want men and people in general to think about. We were on this earth, and by the age of 7, greater than 50% of our belief systems already formed, Oscar. And then by the age of 18, about 90% of our belief systems formed, Dr. Phil. And so I say to people that at that age, we're almost living other people's lives. And unless we acquire some really good self awareness and reflection and personal insight, we're not really realizing that we're going through the motions in life. And there's been many times where I've made decisions based on my old belief system and got this cringe in my stomach and ignored my intuition or my gut and went with it. My gut was telling me, Drew, that doesn't align with your standards, man. Why are you going along with that? Finally realized that if you're making decisions that are not aligned with your standards, and my particular standards are honesty, integrity, and authenticity. If I'm making decisions that are against those three
Mm.
things, then I'm not living my belief system. So I had to adjust my belief system to align my standards, and I want men to do that too because um, wearing a mask sucks. You can't breathe well with a mask.
Yeah. And one of the things that hit me when you say that is we are who we think we are actually a manifestation of what others think we
Mm.
should
Mhm.
be, and how to break
Yep.
through that. Oh, I know who I am. And
Hmm.
your real you says, no, you're not.
Mhm.
That's who they want you to be.
You know,
Absolutely.
listen, man,
Absolutely.
you guys are messing me up, totally, totally, totally messing me up. Because I was teaching a class the other day, and we were talking about identity, right?
Mhm.
And I was talking to the class about how you perceive yourself. And I gave this scripture about when, God made man and all that. We went into the whole beginning and all that. And I said, think about it this way. If you were made to have the same capacity that, well, we call him our father, right? He made us in his image, right? If you were built to have the same capacity, why would he build you with all these limitations? The limitations are only there for you to find what's inside,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not
Mm-hmm.
meant to stop you. It's meant for you to find and discover what's inside of you. Like in that place of creativity, in that place where all things are made possible,
Mm-hmm.
it's right there. And so, how are you going to discover, how are you going to discover potential if there's no adversity? Right? If you don't have,
Exactly.
if you don't have weight, if you don't lift weights, how you gonna how you gonna know your
Mm-hmm.
limitation
Well,
with
that
weight?
I think
Yeah.
that is one of the things that's going on right now in society. We have these helicopter parents, the bulldozer parents, the kids wrapped in bubble wrap. That
Mm-hmm.
little Joey can't be. It's going to make him feel bad if he doesn't win a prize for coming in last in a race. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. The people who decided to give kids trophies for participation should be punished in some way, shape, or
you know
form.
what?
And the play date, whoever came up with play dates should also go in the same room with the people who made the participation
The problem
trophies.
is the participation trophy people are the ones that are going to be flying our airplanes and doing our surgeries in the future. That is not.
Oh my
It's
God.
not very.
No.
Right.
Scary.
Because it is just we were talking about this in the earlier session when Drew was in our para breakfast. I mean, we how we view adversity determines how we deal with it, how we get through it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your mindset
Yeah.
towards it, if your mindset isn't this thing is it cannot crush me, right? I'm going to get through this. Got it. I'm going to have
Yeah.
this mind to overcome it. I have creativity in me. God has made me to be an overcomer, not just not just a victim of circumstances. Because circumstances are going to be there no matter what,
Yeah.
right? I mean, every
Absolutely.
day you wake
Yeah.
up, you got a new problem to deal with, right? I mean, even
Yeah.
if you thought you solved, have you ever woke up and you thought, man, I solved all my problems yesterday, but a whole new set of them came up.
Yeah.
While
Yeah.
I was sleeping.
Yeah. But the thing is, we while we're asleep, we are trained, like we're told every day that we have limits. You can't do this, you can't do that. Now, that with that kind of upbringing, that's when you start seeing things as barriers.
Right.
And it's changing that mindset to see those barriers as opportunities instead.
Thank you.
And that was one of the biggest things that helped me, is that every single day opportunities are coming my
Mm-hmm.
way, and I don't see them because I'm seeing them through the barrier glasses as opposed to opportunity
Mm-hmm.
glasses. And the minute I changed the lenses on my glasses, I was starting to see opportunities. And then then an opportunity is only as good as the action you take. And there we go. That's Oscar's favorite thing. If you focus too hard on the problem,
Miss.
and what does it say at the bottom? The
Yeah,
solution.
yeah. The solution will escape you.
Yeah, it's true. And yeah, for that, I guess most people are watching this, but if you're listening to it, I guess that's a cat in a litter box.
Oh,
But
that's a
it
carrying
has
case, and the carrying case
a carrying
has
case.
a
Has no
Yeah, keep the
roof. It
top
has
off.
no
right.
roof.
Yeah,
The whole
there's
top
no
is
roof.
missing on the carrier, and the cat is staring at the closed gate.
Yeah, and whereas if it can jump left and jump right,
Or
it's
just
out.
look up.
It
Yeah,
didn't.
look up. Like,
Yeah. Well, it's true. You know what? There is something to do with the brain. Somebody was telling me that if somebody says go get the ketchup from the refrigerator, and you say, well, where is it? And your mother says it's on the second shelf. If you convince yourself that you can't find it, you can open that door, look right at the ketchup bottle on the second shelf, and look right through it. Like it's there, your eyes see it, but the brain isn't connecting to the eyes because you've convinced yourself that you're not going to be able to find there's like science
Oh,
behind it, and
the
it's
science is
how many times
many of
incredible.
us
your
have
kid
that?
said it's not there, and you look, it's right in front of your face.
That has happened. I think that has happened to all of us.
All right, so there's
Mhm.
a great book called Pitch Anything, Oren Klaff,
Mhm.
and he figured out what that is. When you're stressed, your reptilian brain, your I forgot the part of that's called the limbic system.
Is that the amygdala?
All right,
No?
the limbic system takes over.
Limbic system.
So your reptilian brain, when it's hunting for something, it needs movement. So when you're stressed, you're not in prefrontal cortex, you're in reptilian brain. That ketchup bottle has not moved. So we're waiting for it to move so we can jump on it. Since it doesn't move,
Wow.
it doesn't exist. That's a wild.
Wow.
So that's how powerful
Your
the
mind is.
reptilian brain, the limbic system, the subconscious is, that you can literally look at something, and since it's not moving, it's not there.
Yeah, I think that is the amygdala. That's the fight or flight. Yeah. So if nothing's coming at you,
it's not moving.
You don't see it
this way or that way.
not
It's
moving.
just, it's not there.
Yeah.
So it's basically how we perceive a threat.
Right.
It has to be moving in order for us to consider it a threat.
Yeah.
But
Fascinating.
imagine
right?
if your enemy knows that.
There's so much we don't know about the brain. I was just reading a research article. I think it was UCLA, saying that the brains of women
Mhm.
have more connections, neural connections between the two
That's right.
hemispheres, and men have it in the one hemisphere, which is why women can multitask and they have the intuition, all that stuff, and we're like staying where we are.
Yeah.
So
This
No,
is
we,
why men can fish, because we don't need to.
yeah, right. Just I'm doing nothing.
but in our doing, no, I think in our doing nothing is like when we're kind of like calculating our next move.
No, we're
Like,
doing nothing.
No, because I've come from those moments of like, I've come from those moments of doing nothing, and like right on the onset, right? Yeah, it's almost like my brain took a break and went, and then I come back, and it must be the subconscious, right? It must be like way back in there, because I come out and it's like, whoa, I could do this, and it's almost like you get a whole reset of how to approach a certain situation,
Well, yeah. Well, think about it when people say they get their best ideas in the shower or on the toilet. It's like, well, you're not stressing the brain, so you're like, oh my gosh, imagination and creativity in the bathroom.
So I'm going to put the toilet in the shower so I can become a
That
dentist.
is no lie. I spend literally about 2 hours there. Just thinking is almost like it's the best place in the world.
Yeah. So you got to have a pad of paper by the toilet. I got
Or
an
a
idea.
recorder. Get a recorder.
Or instead, you're on your phone putting in the notes section.
I wouldn't put it on a paper by the toilet. You might, accidentally use it.
I wouldn't suggest using a video camera either.
Nah, that wouldn't work. That wouldn't work.
But Drew, listen, man, thank you so much for taking the time to come on. Again, obviously, Oscar and I love having you as you're no longer a guest. What do we call this? Like a regular visit? you got regular visitation rights.
He's part of the dysfunctional family now.
That's right. I fit right in with you guys.
The thing about a dysfunctional family, Drew, it's just hard for you to leave.
That's another topic. People say, I came from a dysfunctional family. Like, who didn't?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, what is functional? I want to meet the functional family.
See, the functional family is the family that's unaware that it's dysfunctional, which is the worst kind.
There we go.
It's a family in complete denial. It's a functional family.
I've got it all together because my father has it all together, and my sisters, they have it all together.
And they're all in the asylum.
Even though we ran each other over with a car last week, we're good. We forgave each other.
It's functionally dysfunctional.
All right. So anyway, again, March 27th at the Mamaroneck Public Library, 6 p.m.
Put that up again.
Okay. Let me see how I can do that.
because I think this is going to be an amazing event, and I'm
Cool.
going
I
to
hope so.
definitely make it to see you over there, Drew. I think,
Yeah, that'd be great.
yeah,
I would love that.
it'd be nice if people can bring other people, some even single guys who are trying to get it together,
Yeah,
or that
yeah,
45-year-old that still lives with mom and dad. Yeah,
absolutely.
bring him, please.
Yeah, I'm gonna have signed copies of the book will be available for
Oh,
purchase. They put
cool.
that on the
Oh,
flyer too.
nice, great.
So I got to bring a batch
Our signed
signed.
copies.
Yeah,
That's right.
absolutely,
I want my signed copy.
Me too.
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
great. That's great. All right, so that's Wednesday, March 27th at 6 p.m. in the community
Yep,
room at the Mamaroneck Library. That's going to be fantastic.
yep. Looking
Fantastic. Yeah,
forward to it.
right. All right. Have a great one, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the Phoenix National Network with Focus on You with Phil and Oscar. You could catch us on Roku and Amazon Fire TV, as well as Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and the list goes on. We are on close to 50 different platforms. So
From
if
from
you're on
Brooklyn
any
to
platform
Bangladesh,
and
baby.
from Brooklyn, I'm going to use that. Can I use that?
From Brooklyn to
From
Bangladesh,
Brooklyn,
yeah.
Brooklyn to
Bangladesh.
Or from
Bangladesh.
Bayonne to Bangladesh.
Oh, man. See, that's why we keep you around, Oscar. You come up with these
It's a,
ideas, man. Thank you, brother.
my
All
mind works
right.
like
So we'll see
lightning.
you again next week. I
It's one bright
believe we
flash and
have
it's all over.
Tina. I believe we have Tina Kadish next week.
Oh,
Tina
cool.
Kadish will be with us next week. So she is a business coach, and yeah, you're going to want to listen in. If you have a business, if you're listening to us on LinkedIn and you want to know how to get to your next level, this is the lady that can help to get you there. So we want to make sure you connect with her next week, Thursday at 12 p.m. All right. See you guys then. Take care. All right.